So hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is another interview with such a special guest. This is somebody that I have flown to 3 different countries to see live in the past. 3. I've also met him in the past. It shows such a huge impact on my musical experience, shaping a lot of the kind of music that I listen to today. We got to talk about all things music, from touring to life on the road to his beginning in music, where he got his love from, to right up to modern day with Twitch, because he streams on Twitch. You know, his classical guitar journey, because he's gone and started learning classical guitar and has taken lessons, and he talked on that and he touched on that and where his love of that came from. So Tomo, who is today's guest, was just kind enough to sit and share his time, his stories, his life experience. And it was just crazy for me, as somebody who, like, at 14 years old, I was small. I was like small. I was 14. I'm not tall now, and I wasn't very tall back then, okay? I was like 14. I remember rattling in the corridor before meeting him from nerves. And what struck me back then was how kind he was and how he saw you as a person, you know, and getting to talk with him now today, it just, he's the same. And what struck me a lot was his love for the craft, his love for the art, his love for all things music. And it, you know, it is very rare that you meet somebody who is as kind and sweet as they are talented. And he is one of those rare gems. Tomo is one of those rare gems. And I'm just so delighted we got to sit and have this talk, and he let me pick his brain for an hour. Such an incredibly talented musician that just, oh my god, I could sit here and rave for hours about him. Before we get started, my brother's band Lyterian are releasing their newest EP today as I'm recording this. Could be yesterday as you're seeing this. They're dropping it on all socials. It's called Can We Be the Band You Used to Love. It's a banging EP. It is full of tunes. So if you would like to go check that out and show some love, the link is in the description down below. I have linked Tomo's Instagram. He's Twitch because he streams on Twitch. We talked about that as well. My god, this guy has so many great stories. Oh, I'm so excited for you guys to see this video. But I've linked his Twitch, his Instagram, his Twitter. Anywhere that you can find him and follow along, it is down below. And yeah, let's go with my chat with Tomo. So Tomo, thank you so much for joining for this little chat today, for taking time out of your day to sit and talk the shit with me.
No worries.
Before we get started with the more up-to-date things that you're doing, I'd love to go back and hear about how your whole musical journey got started for you. So what do you pinpoint as being one of your first loves of music?
Oof, it goes so far back. I'm old now. I'm an old man. um so my musical journey started with the violin and with classical music, actually, when I was very, very young. I started to play violin when I was 7 or 8 years old, and it started with private lessons with first my uncle, who is a professional violinist, and he has, you know, multiple master's degrees in music from conservatory. And he was my first teacher. So I got started through family on the violin, piano, and that went on for many, many years up until my teenage years. So I was kind of being groomed to be a concert violinist, a classical musician at the very least, you know.
Mm.
And my love for music started immediately. I mean, as long as I have memories, as far back as my old crusty brain can remember, I remember loving music. You know, I remember having a deep connection to it. I was always able to pick up melodies and to remember them. You know, like, it's just something that was very easy for me. Like, I heard something and I immediately could hum it. Not that I'm a good singer, but like I can just process that stuff very quickly. That was from a very young age, you know. So the love for music goes as far back as I can remember. Classical music up until teenage years. I think it was like maybe 7th or 8th grade. I probably was like 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old, when I started to like really kind of hear guitar music. You know, it's like I was really not into listening even to a lot of other kinds of music. I kind of only listened to classical music. I was really into it. I love it. I still love it, by the way. But in those teenage years, you start hanging out with friends. Other kids are listening to like whatever's cool on the radio, and I discovered things like Pantera and Metallica and like more heavy stuff, you know. And a friend of mine back home, his dad was in a band and he played drums, so like they had guitars and amps and stuff at their house. I went over to hang out with them, and I was just like, hey, show me how to do that on the guitar, you know, because he could play guitar pretty good, you know.
Mm.
And so he gave me the guitar. I put it on, and he turned, like, he had like a whole wall of amps and like speakers and stuff like that. So it was like he turned it up all the way, and I hit my first chord on electric guitar, and it was like game over.
That's when you kind of knew you were like, yeah, I'm sticking
It
with
was
this.
just like the feeling of that. My ear immediately kind of like made the connection to like these new sounds I was discovering, like with the heavy stuff like Pantera and Metallica and like all of the kind of trickle down bands from those genres that were big at the time. This is like the early 90s for me. Then the grunge stuff was also happening, Nirvana, all the stuff that was so surrounding that. Like I hesitate to call something like Soundgarden grunge, but like those kind of bands, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, all of this really great guitar music was like seeping into my consciousness. And then when I hit that chord, it was just like, okay, I understand.
You just described like my whole household taste in music, by the way, with all those like name drops.
Yeah, but because it's like this was what was happening when I was in that kind of like coming of age period of my life. It's like those were the bands that were popping out, and it's just like it was a pretty cool it would have probably been a little bit more fun if I was like 19 at that time, because
Yeah.
you just have more freedom. I was a little kid, you know what I mean? So like you don't really have like the freedom to go do stuff, but like I still got to experience it. I got to live vicariously through my sister who was old enough to go and experience these things. And I still played violin all the way through the end of high school, and piano and all that stuff. But like little by little, my focus started going towards this other instrument. And I loved to learn how to play guitar. I loved to learn about the sounds, like how to craft tones, and learning about amps and learning about guitars and just effects, and like how does that sound, like going to music stores and like asking the guys behind the counter, like how do they do that, you know
Mm.
because it's like, let me tell you something. Google didn't exist. Like you couldn't like Google how do you make this guitar sound. Like you had to go to the local music store and ask the long-haired freak behind the counter, like if they knew how. And luckily back then, music stores were popping. You know what I mean? So like these dudes probably did know how. Like they were all pretty good guitar players, or drummers, or bass players, or singers, or whatever. These were like all dudes who were like probably in local bands and did know how to do that stuff. So like that was like the next level for me, is learning about the just getting more into crafting my own sound. Like it's one thing you just learn how to play, then you learn how to mimic. You start to try to
Mm.
play those, like the more simple riffs of these bands that you love, because some of them were too hard for me at the time, especially something like Pantera. It's like that's on a different level. You have to kind of like graduate to that level.
Yeah, work
And
your way up.
but it's like, you start to like do some of these things. You're in the basement turning up the amp really loud and just like feeling the power of loud guitars, which does something to you. I mean, well, if it does something to you, it does something to you. You know what I mean? I guess that's the best way to say it. Like it either gets you or it doesn't, and it got me. So I'm learning how to play guitar. I don't have a guitar, so my dad makes me a guitar because he loves working with wood, and he thought it would be cool to make an electric guitar. He was like, yeah, fucking the kid's into electric guitar. Like, let's try to make one. And it was, I love it. I still have it. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's a piece of shit. Like, the amount of money that we spent on it and the amount of time that it took to actually complete it,
Mm.
I could have bought like a way nicer guitar.
But it played like it.
Played, it was mine, and it was mine. You know what I mean? Like I could take it and plug it into my little tiny crate amp, and I could sit in my room and listen to my tapes and my CDs and figure out how to do it on my own in my own place. And so like it was amazing. In hindsight, now that I've had the opportunity to have any guitar I could ever dream of, and I've had so many different ones, and I've amassed a huge collection. I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff, and I've had amazing instruments. So it's like now, like in hindsight, I'm like, oh wow, that really was a piece of garbage, but it's still very special to me. I absolutely love it. I'm so grateful for it. I still have it. I still play it. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. That's the
Yeah.
most metal story ever. I
Yeah.
was gonna ask you what was your first guitar? Like, do you remember it? And you're like, yeah, so like I made it. Me and my dad, we made it.
I mean, my dad made it. Like I probably sanded a little bit, right? But he, he was really into being a craftsman. He loves working with wood. He loves to like make boxes and stuff like that. Uh, he's really good at stuff like that, And so I think for him it was just like, obviously, like if you're a father, like now I understand as an adult, I'm like, oh, it's like a bonding thing with your kid. He
Mm.
obviously knew that it would have been cheaper to go buy a $500 guitar at the store that was for sure better than what we made, but it wouldn't have the significance, you know. We're still deeply connected over that experience. You know what I mean? My dad loves guitars. He's a guitar aficionado. He just loves classical guitar so much, which is what I'm doing now. We can get to that in a little bit, but it's like, um, yeah. So that first guitar is very special, even though I've had much, much more ridiculously nice instruments since then.
Yeah, but they don't have the same sentimentality.
No, no, no instrument ever could. No instrument ever could, because it's also like the guitar that made me realize like, oh, I can do this. Like I actually hear myself and I can do what those guys are doing. I was young. I was like 12, 13 years old, like already learning how to play these riffs. By the time I was 15, I was able to play Pantera's like whole albums, and I was just like, okay, I can actually do what these guys are doing, and these guys are like on posters in the stores and stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
I started to get this feeling of like, huh, this is interesting. I really like how this feels. I should be in a band. So that was like the next step. It's like the next step, be in a band, like find other people who play music and start a band.
You're like, we're gonna be on the posters someday.
Of course, of course, obviously. And it's funny, like the confidence that you have when you're a little kid, you're just like, of course I'm gonna make it. But like in reality, you have as much of a chance of winning the lottery. You know what I mean? It's like to actually make it in any kind of like real capacity where like you're going to have the opportunity to tour internationally,
Yeah.
fuck internationally, to tour regionally, to play shows outside of your hometown.
Mm.
Even that is a stretch for most people. And so like when I was a kid in middle school, like seventh, eighth grade, as soon as I started like falling in love with it, I immediately was like, okay, band. I found some other kids in school. We were playing together. It was terrible, but it was amazing. Because like now you're somewhere, you have a drummer, you got a bassist, you got a guitar, someone with a microphone screaming into it, but like you're like, okay. So it's like that next level of addiction where you're just like, okay, this is fucking amazing. It's like you're all hanging out. You pop in like some tape of some band. Like we would all watch the Pantera VHS tapes to
Mm.
get
Oh,
hype and get inspired. We order pizza, sit there, steal some cigarettes,
oh, I
swipe
know. I know how it
swipe some
goes.
beers from the parents' cooler. You know what I mean? We're just like, yeah, dude, let's go.
Rockstar life.
And we'd be watching them, and then we get super hype and be like, all right, we got to go practice. So we go jam, and it was like the instant come down of like hearing that, and then like hearing ourselves are just like, oh,
I mean, but hey, it worked out for you. I mean, you've done years now of touring and of actively making music that you can be proud of.
long term, I stuck with it, and yeah, it worked out. I mean, it's interesting because like of all of those people that I along the way that I've been in groups with, it's not that I was better than any of them. Everybody was good. Like all of them were good musicians. All of them could play relatively well. Everybody loved it. Everybody was into it.
Mm.
But I'm the only one that never stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And that's like people often ask me like, "Hey, how do you do it?" And I'm like, that's an impossible question to answer, but I can tell you a couple of things that have been true in my life. One of those things is never, ever, ever give up on this thing if that's what you love. If your goal, like if the driving force is fame, fortune, chicks, whatever, 100% guarantee you'll fail. Fame, fortune, chicks, all good. Like let that be a result of some kind of accomplishment if that's what you're into, you know what I mean? But that cannot be the reason. The reason has to be the love of creating the art, that
Mm.
process of discovery, that process of refinement, of like leveling up your ability to play your instrument, learning more things so that you can apply, gaining more tools for your toolbox so that when you're doing stuff, you can apply it. And then it's like that journey of discovering your true identity as an artist, that has to be the only driving force, because that's the only thing that can get you there. It's already a long shot. You know what I mean? Like, I have toured with bands, I have played with local bands that were so fucking good, like where we're just like, how are they not the biggest band on the planet? And they just weren't, and it just never happened. And it's just like the amount of stories like that compared to the success stories, like the like if you look visually of like the success stories as being like these tall pillars that exist,
Mm.
but if you were to turn the camera from like on top, you would see just an entire universe of the ones that didn't make it, and so many of them were great,
Mm.
but sometimes it just doesn't happen. And like there's so many factors that are out of your control, like luck, timing. I mean, people say like luck, there's all these different sayings, like luck is the collision of preparation and opportunity, you know what I mean? And that's true, that is true to a point. Like being lucky is being prepared at the right time to deliver the thing. That is a definition of luck. I actually believe that. But like there's a lot of artists, man. There's a lot of musicians. There's a lot of people that have been really, really fantastic, and it just didn't happen. And there's not really a good explanation for it other than the timing, the stars, what is happening in popular culture, what's happening in the world at the time. Like, why do large groups of people choose this group or this artist or this pop singer over another one? Because it's not that different in the pop world. Like there's so many young singers that can sing and dance and write and do everything, and it's like they just don't make it. Like what is it, what is the reason that this one gets to have it and this one doesn't? It's not something that's explainable. You know, there's so many factors that are at play, so many people that hold the keys and are pulling the strings, that the game outside of art creation is super intense, you know?
Mm.
So it's like, I feel super lucky that I got to do what I did, that I get to continue to do what I do, that I have the option to do what I want to do. You know what I mean? It's like I got to tour the world for many, 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 many years. I have toured just about every country on the planet, almost six continents, thousands and thousands of shows, millions and millions of miles. I've circled the globe dozens of times. It's like from small clubs to stadiums as a headliner, festival headliner. It's when you like when I talk about it, sometimes I forget that I'm like, yeah, I've lived a crazy life. You know, with that guitar that me and my dad built. That journey starting from there to what I got to, I mean, to like the the accolades. It's like that's not even everything, you know. Those are just the ones I put on the wall.
But what's crazy is the fact that, like, it did, like you said, that there's so many things that have to fall into place for it to happen. There's so many working pieces that have to click in order to make it. And it did work out for you. But what's nuts to me is I met you 20, I don't even remember when. We're going back. We're going back.
Go
Okay.
way back.
We're going way back. I remember meeting you, and I remember I would have been 14 or 15, this little shaking thing in the corner. I remember, I think we got talking about music or guitar or something, and you had the exact same passion, man. And you were like, no, like if you love to do it, stick with it. I didn't. I played acoustic guitar for like 3 years and was like, I'm done with this. Like I said, I met you in Germany, and I remember thinking, like, I flew from Ireland to Germany for the show. And I was like, It is possible to get jet lag on an hour and a half long flight, okay? I firmly believe it is. And I was suffering. I was like, I want to go home. I'm too hot here. Everything's different. How did you manage like things like jet lag? Fucking, like I said, doing so many different cities in different weeks. That's
So
got to take a toll.
jet lag is something that you learn how to deal with. Well, first of all, sometimes you just have to deal with it. Okay, like if you're promoting an album and you're on tour, uh, touring different countries in the process of promoting an album that is currently out that's selling, jet lag is something that you just have to accept.
Mm.
Now, that being said, there are things that you can do. Like, do you guys know what melatonin is? Do you know what melatonin is?
I heard of it. They're big on that in the States, aren't they?
Yeah, melatonin. I mean, you can buy it at like at health stores. It's so I know some places don't allow it to be sold because I don't know what the reason for that is, but I know in some places you can't buy it. That being said, it's like you buy it at like herbal shops, like health stores. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What melatonin is a chemical that your brain releases that controls your circadian rhythms. So the thing that makes you feel tired at night, makes you want to sleep at night, that chemical is what's released when it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. So with jet lag, the rule number one is like as soon as you get on the plane to wherever you're going, from that moment,
Mm.
you're now on that time.
Right.
So like it doesn't matter where you are coming from. The moment you're like, let's say you're going from LA to Dublin.
Mm.
Okay. LA is 8 hours behind Dublin. The moment I get on the plane, like if I get on the plane at noon in LA, the moment I sit on the plane, it is now 8 p.m. Put on your eye patch, put on your earplugs, and in 2 hours, you go to sleep. No matter what, you figure out how to fall asleep. Okay.
Okay. That's
And
good.
if you got to take a melatonin, if you got to take a sleeping pill, you have, uh, store-bought sleeping pill.
Mm.
It does not matter what, you get to sleep and you try to sleep the whole flight because you're going to get there in the morning, you know, and then you get to where you're going and you simply cannot go to bed. The urge to take a nap, you have to fight it like your life depends on it. If you can do that in 3 days, your jet lag will be gone.
Okay, but that sounds like a really good plan for people with very strong willpower and no travel sickness. I flew from LA to, or from Dublin to LA, and I thought I'd be fine with it. I wasn't fine with it around hour six, hurling up my stomach in the bathroom. I was like, oh my God, I'm not making it off this plane.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I
Oh,
travel like a lot, but short
nah.
flights.
Okay, well, that's a different. I mean, look, that's what I did. That's what we as a group did.
Yeah.
Um,
You're like, look, life of a fucking rock star, a very successful musician. You're
check it out,
well.
but check it out, but check it out. Like you land and you're going straight to the radio station to talk.
Oh yeah, true, fair enough.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so it's like you
Yeah.
can't just like it's hard. You know what I mean? Like you can't. And sometimes you fail. Like, don't get me wrong. Like sometimes it's just like you lose the battle and you're just like wacko for like a few days.
Yeah. Or
But
sleep
this is
radio
this is
station.
the method. The method is you immediately switch to the time of where you're going
Hmm.
and you act as if you're there. So if
Hmm.
it's bedtime, the second you get on the plane, then it's bedtime. And you figure it out. But it's hard. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's easy. It's not.
Hmm.
It takes practice. It takes willpower, especially when you get like what's even worse than that is when you get there and you have nothing to do. Like being busy is great because you're moving around, you're doing stuff, you're never stopping. But getting somewhere and it's like, oh no, actually all the work is tomorrow. You guys have the day off. Ooh, that is hard. That
And
makes it hard because now you're like, okay, now I have to figure out what to do because all you want to do is go
sleep.
to your hotel room, lay in your bed, and do nothing. And the second you do that, you lost. It's game over. You're gonna pass out then, you know.
And when you are doing things like that, then like you said, like promo or touring or whatever, do you get the chance to go around and sightsee, or is it like no, it's in and out kind of deal?
There are You learn how to do it. You learn to schedule time for things like that. In the beginning, no, not at all. In the beginning, no. Like you work. You're working so hard because like you want to do as much work as possible
Mm.
to because you're very well aware of the fact that at any given moment, it's all over. One bad song, one opportunity missed, and it could be done. That's how brutal it is. So every single thing that we could do, we tried to do, especially in the beginning. Every show, every acoustic show, every radio show, every in studio performance at every radio station that would have us, every single thing that you could possibly do, we did, you know, because we really wanted it. We wanted to be able to travel internationally and to play big shows. It was our dream to be able to uh put on massive performances, and the work paid off because we did get to do that, you know. We did become an arena headlining band. We did have sold out international tours. It was crazy, you know. So yes, you learn how to do it. You learn to schedule time to live your life. Like, okay, it's like you tour, this is what you do. You're never in one place for very long. Schedule some time to be where you are. So you learn how to do it.
Imagine it's kind of hard though, finding the balance. Like if you are jumping from place to place, even trying to plan a week ahead must be fucking impossible, you know?
There's no planning like that. It's like scheduling while you're there, you're scheduling blocks of time where it's free time. You know what I mean? And then it's up to you to figure out what you want to do. Later on in life, when we became more successful and we had more options financially, we would stay in one city, for instance. Like we would hub out of Paris.
Hmm.
So now you're in Paris, and then you're gonna fly to different shows and fly back to Paris each night.
All right.
And that way now you're in one place.
Seems like a base.
You have a little bit of a base, and it's like now we're in Paris for 3.5 weeks,
Yeah.
4 weeks or something like that. And it's like, okay, now we can kind of learn what Paris is like, and we can see Paris, you know.
Hmm.
And that was the place that we usually wanted to do that. Another place was London, but mostly Paris. That, like, for us at least, that's the place that we wanted to spend our time. When you started to be able to do stuff like that, it was really cool, I have to admit.
Live music though, it's I know it's like worlds apart from writing or recording or the recording studio.
It couldn't be more different.
What side of creating do you prefer? Do you like the live aspect of it, or do you like the writing and recording?
You know, it's really difficult to answer that because both of them are so important, and both of them offer such rewarding experiences. The thing about the studio is you are completely untethered. You know, like you can do anything. You're limited only by your own creativity and your own willingness to go forth, to go deeper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes to sound creation, when it comes to just producing the body of work, it's like you're only limited by what you are not willing to do, you know. Whereas on stage, you're very, very, very limited. Even these days, like there's only so much you can do as a live act. At some point, you're going to bring computers into the thing. You're going to work with uh, digital instruments and all that kind of stuff. You have to make choices live. What are we going to do? What aren't we going to do? How are we going to do that? Is it possible to stack these things together? How many things can I do? I mean, I did a lot on stage. You know what I mean? How many things can I actually pull off at the same time without the music suffering, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing you go from guitar to like you had a fucking, was it a keyboard or something behind you? And you
Lots
go
of
from playing on that
keyboards,
to,
pads, drum pads, all kinds of different things, you know? And that's all in the effort to play live. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because these days, yeah, most people just put like 80% of the shit on track.
Mm.
And that's just acceptable now. It's not even a thing. Like, it doesn't even bother me. I'm just like, yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Kids are like the people that are at the shows, they don't care. And ultimately, they're the ones who get to decide if something is good or not. You know, if people are showing up to the show, if they're buying tickets and they say they have a great time, we're going to tell them they're wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but being a musician, you'd notice things like that more than someone like
Sure.
who going
But
in.
who gives a shit what I think?
But it's interesting. That's why I want to pick your brain about things like this, especially but like music itself. Like for you, is going to concerts now, like as a viewer, has that been ruined for you? Because are you looking, going, what are they using there? What is this?
100% ruined. And I mean, even to the point where I don't even like to go that much. I have to really love the artist. The magic is definitely I used to say to people, had I known that the trade-off of being able to do it at that level is never being able to really experience it the same way again, I probably would still do it, but it would be a much more difficult choice, you know.
Hmm.
I really have a huge amount of respect for artists who achieve great heights of success that can still go to a concert and push their way to the front and like enjoy it like they did when they were a kid. There's a few people out there that can do it, and like I have great respect for them because it does go away. Like once you understand the inner workings of the entire production, how it works, it's hard to just unplug and be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for somebody like you, it would be my brother's in a band, and we went to a show recently up in Dublin, and it was like siblings day out. You know what I mean? We went, got some drinks before the show. It was fun. Soon as they came on stage, that's all he was saying into my ear. You know what guitar that is? Or they'd hit some pedal, some loop pedal, and he'd go, "Hey, you know what loop pedal that is?" I'm like, "I don't fucking care. Shut up and just listen." Um, but what band have you seen live that you'd go, man, they still like they have you like your favorite live act?
Oh, there's no way to have a favorite. Um, I can go through the eras.
Hmm.
U2 is one of the greatest bands of all time, if not the greatest band of all time.
Thank you. That makes an Irish person very proud. Appreciate that.
It's, it's just true. I mean, like, who can do what they do? Like the songwriting, the live show, the the rock star. I mean, attitude. It's like who is more prolific than U2? Like really though, like I'm asking, like who is able to do what that band does and still do.
And still do it. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like
Exactly.
they're old men.
Fuck yeah.
Hey, I'm fucking old. Imagine how old they are. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like for me, that band does encompass everything that I love about live music.
Hmm.
Uh, Edge is a very important guitar player for me, obviously. The whole band is incredible. The songs are amazing. The albums are revolutionary. Like every single album is so good. Like from just like a studio nerd, it's like there's it's like a professor, like a degree level course in music production. It's just their catalog. You know, if you want to learn how to record drums, study whatever U2 did on study what U2 did on Octung Baby. Like you want to learn how to make drums sound amazing, just study that album and you're going to be able to do it pretty well. Like you want to learn about how to produce songs, listen to Joshua Tree and just study every second of that album. You know, so that band I think probably is all encompassing for me of like all of the things that I love. But like more modern groups that I think are great, like obviously groups like Rage Against the Machine are ridiculously amazing. More modern than that, Muse I think is probably one of the best live bands that you could ever see. I mean, that trio is
Magic.
they're dangerous. I mean, like those
Hmm.
motherfuckers are. And I toured with them, you know what I mean? So it's like I got to hear that every night, and I was just like, damn, these
Fuck.
boys play, dude. Like,
I never seen them live. I never saw them.
what?
Yeah, I know. Listen, I was raised in a house full of music. My dad's. Oh, you're back. You disappeared there for a second.
I was leaving. I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, you're like, I'm done with this fucking shit. My dad's taste in music is like, not to knock it or anything, but like the Bee Gees and people like that. Now, my mom,
Hell yeah.
she got into Linkin Park literally from the beginning when they were still sending out merch in shoe boxes. That's how they used to send out merch. So she got into them, went, followed them on tour, raised me on them. So I was like a little 6-year-old shaking my ass to Linkin Park. That's what I was kind of raised on, you know. But I've never seen Muse, and it just it
Oh,
never
you should see me.
just.
You should see Muse.
I keep meaning to.
That's a show you should see, because if you like rock music and you just like uh great players,
Mm.
they're they are the best band out there right now. I haven't heard, and look, like I said, I don't go to a lot of shows anymore. I'm super jaded on it. And also like now I just play classical guitar only. So it's like I'm not so interested in it. A very large portion of my life was spent in that world, watching shows. I grew up going to shows from a very young age and seeing as many shows as I could possibly see. As soon as I was able to drive 500-mile radius of where I lived, I was going to that show. Did not matter what it was. Like I was going to see, to study, to hear, to experience, to absorb. You know what I mean? And then when I got to live it, when I got to do it, and then it got to the highest possible level, and then it became international at the highest possible level. It's like after a while, you're just like, okay, I've had enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, no, I don't know
At
what
least
to
me.
mean, but
I speak for myself. I speak for myself. You know what I mean?
yeah.
With classical guitar, it's like it's a different world. It's a
What,
different
what
world.
made you want to get into that, into taking lessons with classical guitar?
Mhm. Well, just kind of falling back in love with classical music and my dad. It all comes full circle. Okay, that's actually really beautiful because like my dad, like I had mentioned earlier, he is a guitar aficionado. He loves classical guitar. He knows everything about it. He knows all of the players all the way back to Fernando Sor, all the way even before that until current players,
Mm.
it's his thing. He loves it. And one of the things that he always wanted but never was able to purchase for himself was like a really, really, really beautiful classical guitar. They're expensive. It's like you have kids, you got to take care of the kids. You got to do stuff for the kids, I guess. You know what I mean? So the things that you want kind of take a back seat.
Yeah.
And that's a good parent. I'm just saying, like, I love my parents. I'm just super grateful for everything that they made possible for me. Um, I know that I'm very lucky that I had parents that uh supported my desire to be a fucking rock star, which is insane if you think about it. And they were just like, hell yeah, dude, you can do it. Here's everything that we can do to help make it happen. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Um, I recognize that. I acknowledge it. During the pandemic, my dad would like they're retired now. And so he was like, I'm buying myself a fucking real classical guitar. And he went to there's a place in Santa Monica in California called Guitar Salon International. And this is a place that deals with like big classical guitar players, like the real motherfuckers. You know what I mean? They have guitars that are $250,000 in that store.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, like really crazy instruments, from that level down to student level instruments, but all really nice instruments. Like they don't have shitty guitars there.
Yeah.
And it's by appointment only. Like you can't just go to the store. You have to make an appointment and you're in there alone. And then you have a salesperson and they bring a bunch of guitars to you. You try them out. It's like an afternoon kind of thing.
Very fancy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's cool. And I bought my guitar from there as well. We'll get to it. But so he called me. He was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy a classical guitar. I'm going today. I have my appointment at Guitar Salon. And I was like, oh shit. He said Guitar Salon. And I was like, oh shit.
He's serious.
Have some cash today. And he bought this beautiful guitar, like this amazing instrument. I was in California for a while and I was just sitting there, like I had fallen out of love with guitar in general. Like it kind of left me for a little while. There's all like just so many things that had happened in life that made me not really want to play so much anymore. And I had other interests as well. I started to learn how to be a software engineer, which I love and I absolutely adore doing that. And I plan to continue improving my skills on that. It's something that feels like a superpower. Um, so like the guitar kind of fell to the wayside while this new interest was coming. Classical music was coming back into my life. I was playing my violin again. Um, and I just like the guitar stopped being so important to me, you know. But I was in LA at my parents' place, and I was like, let me see this fucking guitar you got, old man, you know. I was like, let me check this thing out, you know, because I had never played like a super nice classical guitar either, you know. It's like a $7,000 instrument. It's expensive, you know what I mean? And I was like playing it, and I was like, give me some music, like let me try to learn a piece, you know.
Mm.
And he said, here, you could probably learn this. It's not that hard. I can read music, you know what I mean? So I was just like, let me figure it out. And I learned how to play this very simple piece called Moorish Dance. I posted it on Instagram actually. And it's like when I watch it now, it's actually hilarious because it's so bad. But at the time I was like, oh, this is cool, you know. And I learned how to play it. I memorized it very quickly. And I was playing my dad's beautiful classical guitar. And I was like, huh, interesting. Something, because like when you play a really beautiful instrument, sometimes it's like the way that it sounds, and like a nylon strung guitar has like a very special, unique feeling, you know, when you play it. And
Mm.
when you're playing finger style, like with nails, you know, I have long nails as well to like
Fuck. Mm.
it creates a different sound, you know. I didn't have nails at the time. I had just my regular fingers. And so learning how to make it resonate properly, even though I wasn't doing it properly, it was still, you know, better than just like kind of like steel string acoustic guitar is a little bit different. Like you can get away with more. Classical guitar, you have to employ proper technique to make it do what it like to get out of the instrument what it wants to give you.
Mm.
Um, so I was playing and playing and playing, and I kind of started to make it sound kind of good. You know, I was having some phrasing and some dynamics. I was really like trying to make it sound good. And I was just like, fuck, dude, I'm kind of falling in love with this instrument. It's making me want to play guitar again, you know?
Wow.
And I was just like, this is interesting. This is very interesting, very peculiar turn of events here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my dad one day. I was like, hey, let's make an appointment at Guitar Salon. I was like, I'm gonna go buy one of these guitars. And he was like, hold my beer, motherfucker. He loves it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a teacher, you know, because I had been studying and practicing on his guitar. And
Mm.
then I had like a classical guitar that was my brother's guitar, and just for sentimental reasons, I wanted to play that guitar. My brother passed away in 2016, and I thought it was just like a cool connection, you know what I mean? But it's not a nice guitar, you know, and I was like getting into it. I was practicing every day. Like I started practicing many, many hours every day. And I was like, now I'm doing this very seriously. Like I've constructed a practice regimen for myself, a daily thing. You know, this is something that I know how to do. I know how to get good at guitar. And had a bunch of books, had a bunch of methods, but I was like, you need guidance. Like this is an instrument where somebody has to show you what you're doing wrong. Learning and practicing really bad mistakes is detrimental in the long term. So I was like, let me get a teacher, somebody who I respect, somebody who I know is really great. And so I went and bought my own guitar, my beautiful guitar. It's right there. And I had talked to the guy at Guitar Salon, and I was like, do you guys have any recommendations? And he actually said something interesting to me. He was like, honestly, dude, he's like, you should find somebody on YouTube, somebody who you respect, who you think is cool, and just reach out to them because they probably say yes. So he's like, it's not a very lucrative business, you know. And most of these dudes that are performers are private teachers as well, because there's not like a huge market for classical guitar concerts. It's like very niche, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like a violinist or a pianist or something like that, where it's like you're going to go play with every philharmonic in every city because you're going to play the Tchaikovsky violin concerto, and it's like everyone wants to come see that.
Mm.
Classical guitar, it's like it's kind of for guitar players, like people who are into that instrument. And so I was like, huh, interesting. I had never considered that could even be an option, you know? And so I did that. There was a guy that I watch on YouTube quite a lot named Brandon Aker. He has a huge YouTube channel, like 700, 800,000 subscribers. And he's kind of like known as the classical guitar guy on YouTube. Super kind, super mild mannered, but very, very knowledgeable. He plays old world instruments. He's an expert of like the lute, the theorbo, the Baroque lute, the Baroque guitar, as well as classical guitar, and like a lot of different instruments like that, you know. So I emailed him. He has an online music school called Arpeggiato. And I just sent an email there being like, this is who I am. I told my whole long story. I kind of like schmutzed it up a little bit, you know, like hoping that it would gain his attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, you know, I threw it out there. I was like, look, the guy either fucking responds or he doesn't. I'm in the same place either way, right?
Mm.
And the next day, because I also thought like I'm emailing the school, I'm just going to get a response probably from a representative or somebody, you know what I mean? Like not the dude, you know? And
Yeah, like a
I
receptionist or something.
yeah, because he's huge. I mean, it's like everybody wants to like be his student, I'm sure. His school has 20 instructors of different instruments. It's like it's not like a small thing, like it's like a business, you know, that he runs. And he responded and he was like, I used to listen to your band. I would love to be your teacher.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, he was like, I think it's so cool that you want to get into classical guitar. He's like, I would love to be your teacher. And
That's
that was in January.
that is crazy, man. Because I was gonna say there's no way, especially in the I know classical is very different, but there's
Oh
no
yeah.
way in the world of guitar that you wouldn't know your name. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would never assume something like that. It's like those worlds are far apart, you know. But he used to be in rock bands and he used to play heavy metal guitar, you know. And so he was like, yeah, I used to listen to your old band and like um and he was like, I think it would be super cool. Like, let's do it. And like 2 days later, I had my first lesson with him, and he was like, play something. And
You're there with your hands
I'm
shaking,
just
like,
like, I'm just
okay.
like, you know, like I have no idea. Like I'm thinking like, yeah, I got this. You know, let me show this motherfucker something. You know, but I had no idea, of course. And it's like immediately he was like, okay, first of all, like, great, I see where we are. You're definitely not a beginner. You know, like you can read music already. That's good. My left hand was really strong. Like my left hand, no problem. My left hand is 20 plus years experience.
Yeah.
Right hand, nothing. I have no right hand. I have no technique at all. I don't understand like the proper way to move, how to hold your fingers. It's like since then I've been working really hard on it and I've developed a okay right hand technique. You know what I mean? Like now I can play some music, some pieces. And we're just trudging through, trudging through. He's got me on some method books. And that, like I said, that started in January and cut to present. I'm planning to play a concert, you know, at the end of the year. And it's just like, I'm gonna perform. And I'm just like, this is fucking crazy, dude. Like I went from like violin, classical music, piano to full heavy metal guitar dirtbag to like learning how to play all kinds of different sounds, crafting my own sound, becoming successful, touring the world as a rock musician. And then the guitar kind of like leaving me thinking like that part of my life is over. And I was okay with it, you know. I was like happy to be doing this new thing. I love coding. I love building software and like learning how to do that more effectively and like weaseling my way in anywhere that I can to get coding mentors. And I'm like, this is cool. Like I'm building a new life and then, like learning how to do this new thing. But it found me again. And now I'm gonna perform again. And it's just like I was just like, I guess I just can't escape it. Like this is who I am. I
Full
belong on stage.
circle.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And is it going to be classical that you're doing a classical concert?
Yeah. I'm gonna do a classical repertoire. I'm gonna play like 20, 30 minutes. It's gonna be like my debut performance as a classical guitarist. I'm gonna do it here in the south of France.
Oh shit. You
Yeah.
nervous?
I mean, a little bit because it's a new thing, but no, I mean, I have so much experience on stage that I'm not nervous up to like to do it. I'm nervous in the kind of excited way where I'm like, ooh, this is challenging, and
Yeah.
I've not done this before, and like let me, you know, put on my big boy pants and like practice, 8 hours a day so that I can be ready for this concert.
Oh, come on, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm so
so
happy that it found you again, and it is beautiful, and it's a full circle moment of it coming back and finding you. Um,
pretty wild, right?
yeah, yeah, that's fucking nuts. Meant to be. I said it. What's meant for you won't pass you by. Um,
Yeah, but work is necessary though. Like you're right. I would add the caveat, what's meant to be won't pass you by so long as you
work.
nurture.
Yeah.
Because what's meant to be 100% will pass you by if you don't work for it. You got to work. There's
Mm.
no shortcut for practice. There's no shortcut for uh refinement. There's no shortcut for education. It's like you do have to do those things. Like you don't have to go to college. You don't have to like be an intellectual, but like the thing that you want to do, you do have to work at that thing. And you do have to learn about that thing and educate yourself about that thing. And you have to be obsessed with that thing. I don't care what it is.
Mm.
If you want success, like if you want to achieve, if you want to reach for greater heights, it doesn't come for free.
So your classical guitar journey is ongoing at the moment. You've got
Yep.
the show at the end of the year, but you're getting back into Twitch and that kind of side of things.
Yeah, I decided like so I used to stream on Twitch quite a bit and I got all the way to partner status. I did a cooking show, I streamed video games, I did all kinds of stupid stuff. The cooking show was the most fun thing that I did on there and I will get back to that. I just logistically kind of figure out how to do that here. But I thought to myself like I'm on this classical guitar journey, I should stream it. I should practice live on stream, I should work on my pieces. It's like a mini concert so to speak. Every time I stream, I work on different parts. I work out how I'm going to do things. And I also just straight up practice, like just to show people like this is a, a version of my routine. I don't do my full daily practice on Twitch because it would be kind of like uh, difficult to focus. Like if you're going to be a good streamer, you got to also interact with people. So I do like my intense practicing during the day.
Mm.
And then I do kind of like a light practice on Twitch at night. I do it like I try to go live 7 p.m. for a couple of hours, 2, 3 hours, maybe something like that. And I just play guitar, play pieces, work on repertoire, talk about the instrument, talk about the history, um, talk about composers and different eras of classical music. Try to educate people on it because it's cool. I mean, classical music has been around for a long time, and it's impossible to know whether or not the music from our time will live on that long. But we do have some evidence that says it probably won't, because like jazz, I mean, fuck rock music, dude. Like, who gives a shit about rock music? Who in 1965 would have said that rock music would fall out of popularity with like the mainstream? Because it definitely has. It's just true, you know?
Mainstream, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking about like classical music is still prolific. Like when you go to see the Chicago Symphony or the London Philharmonic or any of those major orchestras or any of the major performers, those are sold out houses. You know what I mean? And we're talking about music that was written 500 years ago.
Mm.
So the thing that I'm getting at is there's something very beautiful about this period of time where this music was written because it was a renaissance for music, for Western music. The geniuses that were alive at that time and the body of work that they left for us is very special. And it is the absolute pinnacle of my opinion, by the way. This is my opinion here. So like feel free to disagree with me. That's fine.
Mm.
But it's the absolute pinnacle of musicianship, creativity, uh, integrity, like the level of mastery that is required to faithfully execute this music is insane. The people that do it really, really well they deserve our respect, because the amount of work that they put in to be able to do that is incredible. It's a lot. It's a lifetime. And with classical music, there is no end to that journey. One lifetime isn't enough. That's one of the things I love about it. You know, it's like you can never arrive, so to speak.
So from somebody like you who's at least on that journey or
Sure.
knowledgeable to somebody like me who I've never even seen the road to that journey, what type of music or song would you recommend to somebody who's just getting into it?
Are we talking about classical guitar or just classical music in general?
In general, just classical in general.
Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach. Listen to literally anything from that man. Some of the greatest music that will ever be written, that has ever been written, was written by that person. And an enormous body of work. We're
Mm.
talking thousands of pieces. If you have Spotify or Apple Music, there's probably really well curated Bach playlists. Listen to them. These are pieces of music that have been in films. These are pieces of music that other artists have
Sound.
bit to like inject into their own music. You know what I mean? It's like, I often talk about Bach has already written every chord progression, every melody, every harmonic possible idea that's ever existed has already been written by him. There's no original music. Like nobody came up with a cool new melody. Like he already did it. You just don't realize it. You know what I mean?
So who was the Four Seasons? Was that
Vivaldi,
Andy? Yeah.
Antonio Vivaldi. Yeah.
See, I took music in school. I took
Similar era. That's all Baroque. You know what I mean? So same era. And Vivaldi is amazing because Vivaldi did something really great where he made that style of music super digestible. He was such a brilliant composer that like you can immediately lock into what's happening. You know what I'm saying? It's like he was able to write melodies that you can learn and memorize and hum very quickly. Bach is more intellectual. It's you have to really dig into it. You have to like really listen, and it's like to hear all of the moving lines that are happening, all of the different possible colors and melodies that he's intertwining with each other. It's just unbelievable, you know? And it's cool. I mean, like, look, it's not for everybody. I get it. And like some people might not like it, but you should at least give it a shot because it's lasted this long for a reason. You know, it's still relevant for a reason. It's not like some accident. It's not some fluke. It's because every generation, every new generation, there are a certain percentage of us that discover it and we're like, how?
I mean, yeah, and I think a true
Because
music lover
how?
should
You
be
know?
able to appreciate all types of music as well.
If you claim to be a music lover, yes, I agree. That's my opinion because I don't knock anybody. Like if all you love is country, more power to you. And you think everything else is trash, you know what? I'm of the opinion that you are right because music and art in general is a subjective experience. Like you can love something and I can hate it, and we can both be right about that thing.
No, no, no. Have you not heard? You're on the internet. That
Yeah, I don't
cannot be true on the internet.
well, I don't care about that. My point is like those arguments are silly because somebody put it this way: if an artist exists
Hmm.
and that artist can travel around the world and sell tickets and fill arenas, it doesn't matter what you think about that artist. They are good at what they do. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree with you. It's
But that person who says that they're trash, they're also right because they're entitled to their subjective experience of that person's art. You know what I mean?
yeah. I wish people could take the mindset more of like if it's not for you, it's not for you. You know?
Ah,
Like
ah,
I make content on YouTube and I do mostly
yeah.
TV shows and stuff like that, and I just get super into things and super obsessed with things. And the amount of times that you get comments that are like, "This show is trash. Why are you watching this show? I stopped seasons ago." And I'm like, "Why are you here?" You know what I
And
mean?
do you care?
Yeah, exactly. It blows my mind. That's why I made the comment that it's like it's the internet. You know?
I don't have a good comment on that, and I hesitate to make one. But like ultimately, I'm like I don't really understand that myself because like no one's forcing you to watch anything or like anything or even engage in something. It's like, but this idea that like opinions given that we're not asked for is an interesting phenomenon.
Oh, I've come to learn that also. I've become.
That's an interesting phenomenon. I don't, I'm not familiar with it. Grandpa here doesn't understand it, you know? And I try not to do it, you know? It's like more power to you, man. If you like something cool, if you don't, cool, brother, it's all good, man.
That's
You
right,
don't
man.
you don't like what I do? That's okay.
Teach
I
me your
don't
ways,
care.
dude. Anyway, look, I will let you go. I have kept you long enough. Thank you so much for being so graceful with your time and for sitting and for talking and sharing some stories. I really appreciate it. I know my
My
viewers
pleasure.
too.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Not at all. And that is it for this chat, you guys. Let me tell you, that is just, these are my favorite style of videos to do. And it's just, they're difficult to like get and pull off and conduct. But like when they do come to pass, it's like, days like today shake me to my core and I'm shook. Okay. So again, a big thank you to Tomo. Oh God, I can feel like little 14-year-old me freaking out inside me, and I'm like, I know, bitch, I know. So yeah, thank you guys for all of the love and the support on these videos, the interviews that I do, because they are my favorite to create. They're my absolute favorite type of videos to make. So thank you for supporting and for watching. Thank you for all of the love. Like I said, all relative links are in the description down below if you want to find me, Tomo, my brother's band are also linked below. Check out the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you all soon.